if all there was for me to choose, for me to get married, the men made $65,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
My lifestyle is significantly higher than that.
Yeah.
Would I give everything up to marry a man who is making $65,000? Yes, because I desire marriage above me having this luxurious lifestyle that I have.
I was shocked when she said that she would give up her business, because her mindset is not like most women today. I think most women will come into a situation, for one, here's $65,000 and say that's not enough to take care of two people or 3-4 people, depending on you got kids, especially in this era, depending on where you living at. So a lot of women will walk into that and be like, nah, I'm gonna keep working. And then once you make some more money, I feel like you get to a comfortable level, then we can do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Introspect Club, a podcast where you can learn a lot about yourself through conversations with other people. My name is Damisse, and I'll be your host. This week, we have a very unique conversation, as we do every week. We are going to be talking about the concept of traditional relationships. Why is this important today? Well, there's been a lot of chasms between people trying to decide how to live their lives and their relationships, because there are people who are super traditional, people who are super modern, and there are people who are evolving in so many different ways that we can't even count anymore. Okay. And sometimes it gets very confusing for people who want to have a loving, long-lasting relationship, especially when you're raising children. There's a lot of different perspectives on this. Some a little bit more contradictory, and some of them are a little bit more reminiscent of, how do you say this? Something that's a little bit nuanced, or something that's a little bit more nostalgic. But I want to bring certain people into this conversation that I think are very experienced in this topic, who are, experienced in their relationships, experienced in how they coach other people. So first, I want to bring in my honorary co-host, TrillAC from the Cruise Season podcast. What's going on, my man? How you doing?
Amazing, man. Appreciate you having me on, bro.
Welcome. Man, coming through HD. As far as like this topic, the reason why I'm bringing you on, I've listened to your show for quite some time now. You already know this. This is not, Trill will tell you, I'm on his ass when he's dropping episodes. So you talk a lot about relationships when it comes to like these traditional values versus modern values in relationships. Do you feel like you get a lot of questions from your listeners regarding these topics, or how do you feel about it?
Definitely. I think that's actually one of the hot topics in terms of questions that we get asked, is like gender roles.
Okay.
That's like the main thing. I think it's kind of it's been a shift. Relationships today aren't what they was 50 years ago. So you have people that are, kind of pulling for tradition when it's convenient. And then you have people that are all the way traditional, and then you have certain people that are just all the way modern. And I'm not doing any of that. We're going to divvy up what these quote unquote gender roles are between us, and we're going to go from there. So it's just kind of a, push and pull kind of situation. And we just try to help them navigate it, as best we can.
Yeah, I see that. Like I'm noticing there's a lot of changes, especially with, the access to technology, education, as well as like how people are being motivated by things they see online. There's a lot of things that influence how people deal with relationships. But I don't want to talk about it between just us. I want to speak to someone who is very well faceted in the conversation about traditional relationships. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to give a nice, warm welcome to Letitia Underwood, the matchmaker for traditional high value men. Letitia, how you doing, love?
Thank you. Hi, how are you? I'm great.
You look very presidential with that white top. It's like you're like first lady status over here.
Thank you. Well, I am trying to be someone's first lady, so you have to look the part.
Okay, well, all right. You matching with people with the president?
Not quite. I hope to get to that level, but no. Typically, presidents already have their first lady. So,
all right. Give everybody a quick introduction of who you are, what you're about, and what your mission is.
Okay, so I am LeTisha Underwood. I am the founder and CEO of Two Hearts Exclusive Matchmaking Services. I work with successful high-value men who espouse traditional values, and I help to match them with women who espouse traditional values. That is a very small niche, a very small part of the population. And so those men come to me to make the process easier when they're ready to settle down and meet their wife. I'm also a dating specialist and strategist. So I help people who don't necessarily need help with the matchmaking or really like trying to find someone right immediately, but they may just want some help in the dating arena. And I help them figure out their dating style, whether that's modern or traditional. And then I give them a strategy in order to be successful at dating. That's what's up.
Trill, give everybody a quick little intro of yourself so they know how to find you. Not necessarily how to find you, but what you are and what you're about.
TrillAC, 1/4 of the Cruise Season podcast. We specialize in relationships, culture, just in general, especially the dating game and lately marriage. A lot of questions about marriage. But yeah, so we've been partying for about a couple years now. I think we rank like top 50 on Apple in the relationship category. Top 0.5% podcast in the world, something crazy like that. Salute to all our listeners. Salute to the followers. Cruise Season everywhere, as YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, even.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So let's get to the meat of this conversation. So Letitia, help me understand, what do you define as a traditional relationship?
I define traditionalism as basically straightforward. It is what it is. There's really no deviation from it. It's based along the lines of gender roles. The man has his role and the woman has her roles, and they pretty much understand it. The man is going to be the one who is typically going to be out there being the provider, making the money, and the wife typically is a stay-at-home wife and mother. So it's very, it's not that complex or complicated.
Well, you say it's not that complicated, but we're going to get into that because there's the complexities that come with that. Humans are humans, right? So you're saying that it's based on these very specific gender roles. Wife does wifely duties. Husband does husband duties. He brings home the bacon. She cooks the bacon, right?
Correct.
So let me ask you a question. In today's environment, why do you think that is still a necessary endeavor in relationships? And why do you think people might have strayed away from it?
I say it's necessary because in that regard, it is, you pretty much know what you're getting yourself into. You already know how the foundation is to be laid. You already know the structure. You also see less divorce in traditional marriages. In traditional relationships, you see marriage for the most part. You see marriage, whereas in non-traditional relationships, it is what it is. But you're definitely going to see marriage. And I think people strayed away from it because of the negativity of being in a traditional marriage. Some men did abuse the privilege of having a stay-at-home wife and a stay-at-home mother. Then you had women who opted to want to have some form of independence, because in traditional marriages, as a woman, you're giving up a lot of your autonomy, because the person who was paying all the bills gets the most say, gets a bigger piece of the say. And a lot of women felt that was just too stringent for them. So they didn't want to have to deal with that. They wanted to have, it's hard to ask for someone. It's hard to ask your man for any money, any, as they called it back in the day, it was pin money. They called it pin money to take care of your basic necessities. Instead of feeling like a wife, you felt like a child. And a lot of women balked at having to do that. They wanted some type of autonomy. They wanted some freedom. They wanted to be able to do as they please. And plus it gave them a sense of accomplishment to be able to contribute to the household and not feel like just a dependent. So you've seen a whole movement where women are able to get their own. There was a lot of, when marriages back then fell apart, the woman was left like, okay, what am I going to do? I have no job experience.
Let's talk about that for a second, right? So Trill, what are your thoughts on that, given everything she laid out, given why she thinks it's important still and why people strayed away from it? Or do you think it's important still? Or do you think there's a reason people strayed away from it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a reason people strayed away from it. I think it has a lot to do with, just like she said, independence. A lot of relationships lasted back in the day because they were, those women were afraid to leave because my livelihood is tied to this marriage. My status in the community is tied to this marriage. I know great grandmothers and grandmothers that still can't even drive to this day because, my man drove, or don't know how to pay bills because my man did that. So, when those men, went off and had these other families and different things like that, you were kind of forced to eat it or start from scratch. But, if you're not educated, if you don't have any job skills, any certs, it's going to be hard to take care of yourself. So you have a lot of those women that are going from man to man, and their livelihood kind of depends on this man. And I think the younger women in this generation seen that. And was like, nah, I'm going the complete opposite way of that. I want to be able to take care of myself. I want to be able to leave under my own volition. So I think it started with the women empowerment movement around 60 years ago. And then it's just kind of escalated and, going forward. And now it's, gone a bit haywire, if I may say so myself. But so that would be, what caused it. And that would be why a lot of women in this generation are totally against it.
Wow. So you mentioned haywire. What's haywire about today's generation when it comes to the dynamics in relationships?
Well, because you have what that process did was it created a lot of masculine women. Right. So when I mean haywire is that, it would have been okay if, you upgraded in terms of empowerment in the community and you were still able to quote unquote submit. I hate using that word, but submit to your man, you basically follow your man's program. But with independence and with the, perseverance and a lot of what it takes to be a provider, even for yourself, you have to take on masculine traits. So what that does is that it kind of makes it hard for those women to even want to work with a man. Unless he's making significantly more money. And then it's a situation where, okay, well, I kind of have to bow. But even, ironically, a lot of women that are doing very, very well for themselves avoid those men who are making a lot of money because they've grown to, love the control and they don't want to get rid of the control. So when I say haywire, I mean that it's hard for that type of woman to buy into a man's program because she's developed masculine traits, getting the status that she has today.
Letitia, how you feel about that?
I think you're trying to get me in trouble. I'm like, Jeff done set me up to get me in trouble. But I can't disagree. I can't disagree with what he said. Unfortunately, it has gone haywire. But that's the beauty of traditionalism today. Like, I don't have a problem with the word submission because I want to submit to my man. I want to yield to him, especially being that he will be the provider, the breadwinner. It's a lot of work to be a provider. And a lot of single women can attest to that. You take on a lot of the responsibility and accountability for your entire household, whether you have children or not, it's on you. And I would prefer not to. So I would prefer to put that on my husband. And I show him appreciation by being yielding and submissive and agreeable and getting on his program. But a lot of women can't stomach that mindset. And I say, you're going to get me in trouble because here I am agreeing with that with men, and it comes across as misogynistic.
Ooh.
He said they're masculine, but when you are working, you do require masculine traits. You require to use the left side of your brain. I have to do that in my business. Like I have to take lead. I have to be very productive, and I have to. There's some things that I just have to do that make have to be aggressive with clients at times. Like I have to be very not aggressive, but very assertive, because I have a business then that has to take care of my household, take care of my family, right? Take care of myself, and so if you are doing that and you don't understand that, okay, I have to be masculine in this regard, but I need to make sure that I'm protecting my femininity and operating mostly in my feminine energy, then you're going to start operating predominantly in masculine energy. And it is going to be hard for you to cooperate with a man because now you're in competition with him.
So let's talk about that.
Talking to him and dealing with him.
So let's talk about that, the competition, right? I imagine the competition comes often with career women, right? So what are your thoughts on the idea that a woman goes to school, gets her education, starts making her own money and starts grinding and starts making, just as much money, if not more money than the men that she's encountering today? Do you feel that a traditional relationship is possible in today's environment where those are the types of humans that exist in the dating pool?
Well, it's not her getting an education that's the problem, because men like intelligent women.
Well, it's not about the intelligence. I agree with you. I think the question is more so the sacrifice that women are making for themselves after now, leaving school with the education, also working hard, getting into their careers and being self-sufficient. But then you're asking for a very traditional relationship where she's being dependent mostly on the guy. Do you feel like in today's environment, it's a reasonable ask for women to revert to the traditional way, despite the fact that they elevate themselves in this particular way?
That explains your question in my Clubhouse room earlier.
Did you? Well, this ain't Clubhouse, girl.
I knew you asked that. I said, I bet you there's a different reason. There's a real reason behind that. I'm not going to speak to whether or not it's reasonable. See, Jeff, you're trying to get me in trouble. I'm not going to speak to whether or not it's reasonable, but I will say that they are pricing themselves out of the dating market. Ooh. Because the more successful a woman becomes, the more likely she's going to want a man at that level or higher. And those men have a really broad range of options, and you're limiting your dating pool when you do that. You are severely limiting, because there's only approximately 10% of men in the United States of America that makes over 100K or more.
Trill, how do you feel about that?
Which part?
The part in regards to her thoughts on what happens when women elevate themselves with their education and money prior to settling down or finding the right person to settle down with.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it makes them. It sounds crazy, but it makes them less desirable. It does.
Damn.
Because, like I said, en route to getting that type of status, what type of mindset do you develop, right? And it's one of control. It's one of, okay, I feel like I'm, just like she said, it's 10% of men that make that. Right. So pretty sure it's even less women who make that. So if I am making that, then it's like, okay, I feel like not only am I at your level, but I'm kind of above you in a sense. Like that's the mindset. Even if you don't say it blatantly, it's subconsciously, right? So if I'm dating somebody, a man that makes less than me, I'm not going to submit to him. I'm not going to necessarily follow his lead. I'm going to kind of challenge everything. I'm going to be very, very, very combative. I'm going to be like, wait, are you sure that we turn left right here? Because no, in my experience, it said turn right and then we come make a loop, so it's that type of thing. And men that are in that type of percentage are not trying to deal with that. Those men want easy. Those men want, agreeable, not necessarily just bow to everything I say, but don't combat every issue that comes up. And I think that's a hard, thing to break for those women. I would equate it to, like, say somebody going off, to a war for 20 years. And if I'm going off to war, like what it takes to survive out there is a lot. I have to do a lot of training. I have to do a lot of, shooting and tactical skills and things of that nature. I might have killed a few people and all type of things. And then I get back to society and it's like, okay, go sit at a desk for 8 hours a day. It's going to be a transition. Is it possible? Sure. But, those instincts are going to still be there. So, to equate that to women, when they go off and get these, masters and PhDs, and I get high up in this corporate company, and because again, just like we spoke about masculinity earlier, a lot of women, especially in corporate world, you have to be damn near more masculine than the man for those men to respect you. So, and a lot of women just have issues turning that off when they get home. So to answer that question, it would make her less desirable, ironically.
I kind of, I feel like these questions are just making me sweat.
Where are these questions coming from?
I don't know. It's not coming from Wikipedia. I'll tell you that much. Here's what I'll say though. I hear what you guys are both saying, but I have a different mindset, right? So I think what happens a lot, right? There are a large population of women, yes, that when they get, a lot of good education, they get a lot of good careers and income, which I think they're all great things in some way, shape, or form. But yes, it does come with the caveat of sometimes it comes with an energy of this go-getter energy that can be very masculine to a lot of men. But I think it's very false to expect that just because a woman makes money, just because she has a good degree, that she's automatically disqualified, because there are women, and I know Trill's going to say, well, I'm playing percentages. I get it. There are women who have degrees, who have education and careers, but they have values that are deeper than their career, right? So I think some men, they see a woman that makes a lot of money and they run off scared before they even get to know her, right? And I think that men fall into that trap because of the stigma that comes with, or if your woman makes more money than you, then she's going to treat you like a little biatch, for lack of a better word. I'm trying not to curse, but it just be coming out. So what are your thoughts on that, Letitia?
I don't think men are intimidated by women's success. Not men at that caliber. They're not intimidated.
So if a man makes less of that caliber, whatever caliber, because we're going to get into what caliber you're referring to, a man of the caliber that you might be referring to that makes a decent amount of money, if he comes across a woman that makes more than him or is more educated than him, do you feel like he doesn't care?
No, I think at that level, if he's coming across a woman, let's say he makes slightly above average, which is about 41,000 in America, about 40 less than 50,000.
The new average is, I think, 50 to 60 something. Inflation.
No,
what?
It's less than 50.
Like 42, 43, somewhere around.
I looked it up the other day. Am I bugging?
You're bugging.
Oh, wait. Are you talking individual or are you talking household?
I'm talking individually.
Oh, my bad. I looked up household.
You can't look up household. We talk about single people.
Okay, my bad. My Googles is messed up. Dang. Yeah, I looked up household.
Hell of a jump.
Wow.
It's like, listen, you see these gas prices? It needs to jump, okay?
But yeah, the average income is less than 50,000 for individuals. So if you have a man who is making about 40-something thousand, he does not have a degree. And he comes across a woman who has a master's and she's making 80,000.
Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be an intimidation factor there. He's going to feel self-conscious. He's going to feel a little insecure in trying to date her because her lifestyle is well above his.
Okay. But what about, so let's talk about the guy who is carrying accolades, who is carrying a decent income, but the woman that he comes across is still higher than him. Do you feel like he's going to feel some type of way?
Depends on how much higher. I mean, you think ASAP Rocky cares that he's a couple million, he's worth a couple million and Rihanna's a billionaire?
I don't like to reference celebrities. Celebrities have a whole different lifestyle and life choices.
Like I have a client who I ended up matching with a woman who's he's a millionaire himself, and I matched him with a woman whose net worth was slightly higher than hers, slightly higher than his. She's a PhD and he didn't finish college. So, and it works. I don't really think at that level money is an issue because the lifestyles are going to be similar. Millionaires lifestyle, when you're in like, unless you're like 100,000, 100 plus million, and you're dealing with somebody worth 2 million, the lifestyle is going to be different. But if you're dealing with someone, he's worth $1 million and she's worth 3 million, or maybe a team 10 million, the lifestyle is not going to be that much different. So at that point, he's just looking to see if your money is going to cause you to be combative or disagreeable. Like, can I still be the man and lead in this regard? And those women at that level, they tend to understand how small the dating pool is. They really get the fact that they can't be that picky and that choosy. So they tend to, especially as they get older, they tend to modulate their behavior on their own and understand that I'm just going to let a man be a man, regardless if I'm the breadwinner or not.
Trill, how you feel about that?
I would agree. I would agree 1,000%. I think, I feel like that is the case. But at the same time, I guess I kind of agree. But at the same time, like knowing the mindset of a man, like men are just naturally competitive. And we have been socially conditioned to make more money than our woman. That's just what it is. Now, and she has to be like a very, very, very special woman for that man to walk into a situation where she's making even, we could use regular people example. If he's at 50 and she's at 65, 70, a lot of men will still be a little hesitant walking into that, So it's like, men have been kind of socially conditioned. And then once we start catching feelings for her and we get into it, then of course none of that really matters. But we're talking about like an initial approach. A woman that's making more than a man tends to kind of, raise his ears up. So I mean, but at the same time, I would agree in terms of what she's saying. Like people that's at millionaire status, 1 million compared to 10 million, that's not life altering money. Like we still gonna take the same trips, we still gonna drive the same car, we still gonna, so that type of thing. But I feel like overall, that is a bit of a hesitation factor, I would say.
So, Letitia, given what he said, right? Let's use regular people money because we went from one extreme to another, below 40,000 and then 3 million. You know what I mean? So we gotta have a different like lens here. So let's look at a situation where a woman's making like $65,000 a year, right? Man's making $65,000 a year also, right? Some people would say they're even or they're match. I don't know. It's just a numbers game to me. But as a traditional relationship advocate, are you proposing that woman quits her job and lets the man lead financially and be a stay-at-home wife at $65,000 a year?
Yes, I would. I mean, when I get remarried, I'm giving up my business and I'm going to, the thing about traditionalism, it's not about convenience, right? You don't just, you're traditional because you want all the benefits that come with chivalry, essentially. No, I have a heart to serve my husband. And I'm only working because I'm single. So it serves a purpose, not because I'm trying to maintain an independence, but because I'm divorced and I'm single. And I like nice things. So I'm working right now for those things. So if you are truly traditional, there's not going to be a matter of or a problem that you're going to give up your career, your job. Plenty of women have done it to take care of their home and their children and their husbands because that's where their heart is. Their heart is to serve their husbands and their families and not be in the workforce.
Trill, how you feel about that? You had a reaction there.
I was shocked when she said that she would give up her business because her mindset is not like most women today. I think most women will come into a situation for one, here's 65,000 and say that's not enough to take care of 2 people or 3, 4 people, depending on you got kids, especially in this era, depending on where you living at. So a lot of women will walk into that and be like, nah, I'm gonna keep working. And then once you make some more money, I feel like you get to a comfortable level, then we can do it. But I mean, my question for Letitia is, she just said like, I like nice things. And when you tie yourself to somebody that's making 65,000 with no other income at all, those nice things are gonna go away. So how hard of a transition would that be for you to make on a scale of 1 to 10, and why?
I like nice things, but I like them within reason. But I want to be married more than I like nice things. So I'll find a way to make it work. I mean, you can get stuff on consignment. You can resell shops. It may not be the latest season, but plus, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. So I've always been able to have nice things without having to spend an exorbitant amount of money for those nice things. So,
All right, so that's the part that's kind of throwing me, like, because even though you didn't grow up with a silver spoon, you have worked extremely hard to get where you are. I mean, I don't even have to know you to know that if you're running a business by yourself, you've definitely worked hard to get there. So I guess it's just kind of hard for me to wrap my mind around getting rid of everything I built completely to live a less, I don't know. But I guess it's not quality. It kind of ties to where your values are. And if your values are serving your man, which I think is where the disconnect between you and most women in this generation is, their values are not serving their man. In most relationships in this era, their man are a box to check off on that list, but not necessarily serving him. Most women go into a situation like, what can the man do for me? So for you to have that mindset, I guess that's where the confusion comes in at. But I mean, I can't say that she's wrong. I'm just shocked by it, to be honest.
I get that a lot. Most men are like, I've never met a woman like you or a woman saying these things, but I have worked hard. I worked very hard and I have been faced with that choice. So mostly I date men who are very successful, but I was faced with the choice. Would you give it up if all you had to choose from was from men who made $65,000? Or you would maintain your singleness and you would have the lifestyle you have now? Oh, I give it up in a heartbeat.
Well, it's not about maintaining your singleness. No.
No, but it's not about maintaining my singleness, but if that's all that I could choose from when it comes to the men, right? It's a hypothetical.
Okay.
To see where someone's value truly lies. If all there was for me to choose, for me to get married, the men made $65,000, right? Mm-hmm. My lifestyle is significantly higher than that.
Yeah.
Would I give everything up to marry a man who is making $65,000? Yes, because I desire marriage above me having this luxurious lifestyle that I have.
Interesting. Here's my lens with everything that you guys are both saying, because his head's still spinning, I can tell. Right. So here's where
after you done, bro. Go ahead.
here's where my lens is, right? Gas is $6 a gallon in some places. Okay. Do you think it is reasonable to expect, not all women, but I guess most women, given that that's the agenda for traditional relationships, to give up their income to serve their man, where the average household can barely survive on a single income in today's environment, even before this crazy inflation? Okay. Do you think it's reasonable to expect that in this environment?
If you want to be in a traditional marriage, yes. That's what you're going to have to do. That's why I say this is not that value system. That type of relationship and marriage is not for the faint of heart. It's for those who truly, truly have a value for marriage and serving their husband, and serving their family. Women who are traditional, I mean, we make it work. I mean, my ex-husband didn't make six figures when we got married. When we got married, we was first working at Arby's fast food restaurant, making an hourly wage. Because of course we were in college. Like I was 19, 20, and he was like 18, 19. Yes, we got married very young. Shortly after we got married, I got pregnant. So then he decided to go off to the military. But even still, I mean, his income, I think, was at $40,000 when it was all said and done. And I found a way to make it work as a housewife. people have a hard time with these incomes because they're living or trying to live above their means. A woman who values marriage and serving her family, she's going to find a way to make it work. And as quiet as it's kept, a lot of there's more areas that you can live off and raise a family off of $65,000. Where I'm from in Ohio, $65,000 is going to put you in a nice 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage house, and you both can have some nice little modest cars.
I get it.
It's when you're trying to keep with the Joneses that you run into this problem of, can we afford it?
I got you. See, you're coming from that lens. Trill, how do you feel about that?
I think I think I'm starting to wrap my head around what she's saying. Because she believes in the traditional relationships, she's essentially saying that if I'm working, that'll work to the detriment of the relationship. Because I think like a lot of people's mindset in the modern era is that we can do both. You know what I'm saying? Especially like, you know, men feel like we have to do both. There is no way around it. But a lot of women feel like I can go out there and get my degree and get my high paying job and still be the woman that I need to be for my man, you know, and I guess depending on what that man kind of demands. But if that man is a traditional man, then what Letitia is saying is that it would be impossible for you to do that because you're going to have to do everything that you're doing outside in terms of getting your money and your degrees. And then I'm going to need you home to iron my shirts and cook my food and take care of my kids and all of that. And to be honest, it's not enough time in a day unless you have a clone or something like that. So it kind of depends on what your ideology is. So her ideology is that if I'm working, despite what everything costs, despite what the numbers are involved, me working means that I'm spending time, or necessary time, away from my relationship, and that'll cause it to fail. So do I want to work and risk that high percentage of it happening, or completely let that go and just invest in my relationship and increase the chances? So, I mean, I get it, even though I don't agree with that type of relationship, but, you know, it's not for me to agree with if she believes in that.
Why do you not agree with that type of relationship for yourself?
Well, because I'm actually in a marriage in which we are doing both. But see again, I'm not a traditional, super traditional minded man, right? Because I can cook myself, I can wash clothes myself. So with me and my wife, it's more of a situation where like, okay, she works, I works, I make more money, I pay most of the bills, but it's like I help out here and there. Like I'm, you know, like in a lot of traditional situations, like the guy literally feels like all I gotta do is bring the check. And
right.
I'm coming home, sitting on the couch, and I'm just gonna kick it. Like everything else is your responsibility. I'll, you know, tap in here with my child here and there, but I'm not doing heavy lifting. I'm not washing dishes and dusting and vacuuming and none of that. You know what I'm saying? But me, I'm not really that traditional of a man. So I'm more of like, okay, let's sit down and work out what's most convenient between us with you working. Because I also believe that like a lot of the older women that were in traditional relationships, at the end of their life, there was a lot of regret in their mindsets. I mean, I can speak, you know, to my grandmother specifically and great aunt specifically, you know, to where they were traditional. They were with their husband since 8th and 9th grade, 40, 50, 60 years of marriage. And, you know, you'll have conversations with them and I'll be like, hey, you know, was it ever anything that you wanted to pursue? And I'm like, yeah, it was a lot that I wanted to pursue. I wanted to do this. I was making straight A's. I could dance really well. I wanted to pursue that, but I sacrificed all of that for my family. And even though they have fulfillment in that, they still have deep regret about what they didn't get to accomplish that, and built up resentment because a lot of times those husbands was out in the streets living how they were supposed to be living, and those women had to deal with a lot. So they may have been married 50 years, but the last 35 of them, they didn't really like each other for real. They was in separate rooms and, you know, only speaking when it's family functions and holidays. You know what I'm saying? So I guess seeing that kind of changed my mindset in terms of tradition compared to modern marriages.
That's interesting. You know, it's funny you say that because, and which is part of the reason why I asked the question, can that type of lifestyle survive in today's environment? Because women have been given so many different opportunities to, I guess, excel, have options for themselves. And it's kind of crazy for me to think that the average woman right now is going to give up that because they've had a taste of what that freedom is, and it's fruitful for a lot of them, right? And also the environment is now set up with the expectation that a woman's also working. I think the reason why it's harder to it's going to sound blasphemous. I'm probably going to get dragged online for saying this. I don't care. Okay. I think the reason the cost of living is higher is because women entered the workforce in droves. Because think about it. If you own a product, a service, or any type of land or anything like that, right? You're selling based on what the market can give you. Okay? And then you say women are in the workforce, the family income has almost doubled. If I'm selling a home and I see families coming to sell the home, to buy the home, I'm going to be like, my price just went up. I want as much as you can give me. And you can give me more by having two incomes in the household. So I think that increases the cost of living. I was looking yesterday. The average, do you know what the average home cost is in the United States?
It's egregious.
It's $400,000.
Yes.
Okay, $405,000 to be exact. Okay, and I did the math with, because that's why I was looking up the whole family, because I'm in the process of trying to buy another house right now. So I'm just trying to figure out like how these, like there's interest rates. I'm just trying to figure out what's happening with the earth, right? So, so with the cost of living being so high, and we're accustomed to dual income household, what you're asking as a community, because I don't think you just want this for yourself. I think you want to promote this to the people you coach, the people you provide your matchmaking service to, correct, Letitia? Right. So if you want that for the community, the environment may not support that. How do you feel about that?
The environment may not support what?
The environment meaning like the cost of living, the social expectations, as well as the financial expectations of having two people working and providing for each other, right? And a husband also being able to contribute in the household, given what now is expected from the woman, and so on and so forth. Like, how do you feel the community is going to respond or be able to support that type of lifestyle of being in a traditional relationship where the man is the sole provider and the woman is taking a step back to that degree?
I think I'm confused, because I'm trying to figure out, what does the community have to do with two people choosing to have a relationship dynamic that she's choosing to stay at home? Like, it's not a requirement. This is a choice. Mm-hmm. So today, traditionalism is completely different. Women are choosing to come off the workforce and stay at home, and the husband is choosing to match with such women. So I'm trying to figure out why that would be an issue for the community. I'm
saying issue for the community, for instance, like, this is going to sound another extreme, right? Which you kind of already explained it. You're living a certain lifestyle right now. In that lifestyle, maybe not you, maybe another woman who's in your lifestyle, right? They have a certain job. They have certain friends. They live around certain family members in that community. They have certain bills that they incurred, given the lifestyle that they have, right? Whatever the case may be, because you don't know when you're going to find your match. So you might have real estate. You might have all kinds of things, right? And now you are saying, if you're with a man that makes $65,000 a year, you're going to give all that up. You're going to move to somewhere in Ohio, away from where you were before.
Wait, why did you say Ohio like that?
I said Ohio because I know you can buy a house there for 80 grand cash. Looked it up, inquiring about it. I'm just saying. All right. So if you're picking up and leaving and doing those things, and you're making that change, and you're in an environment where homes are an average of $400,000, right? The community is putting a little bit more pressure in you, not just financially, but just also just other expectations. So my question to you is, like, what do you see is going to be the backlash of how your life is going to turn once you give up your business, give up your lifestyle. I know you don't care about the latest fashions. And then your kids are not going to necessarily have the most resources that they could have had. I know you're saying like, the resources, the mothers, care and being there for them, which is also true. But those things are a factor, no?
Do you know what type of lifestyle you can get off of $65,000?
I know. In Ohio, you can get a lot.
Yeah. So you get a lot. So my kids are going to be, I'm too old to be having kids at this point. But if I was younger and I was having children, my kids would be okay. My kids would be, I think it's just economically feasible for people to get out of the major metropolitan cities anyway. You'd have a better life when you do. You have a better quality of life as far as family, building family and true community. Because in major metropolitan cities, let's face it, how much of a community are y'all really building? If people are just building community off of having stuff, that's not really a community that I really want to be a part of, nor I should be concerned with, because the community that I want to build is going to be built off of family values.
Okay.
Meaning I know my neighbors know me, and my neighbors know my children, and they're all going to school together, and they're going to grow up, and their sons are going to marry my daughters, and my daughters are going to marry their sons, and we're at barbecues, and we're doing PTA meetings together. And that's the community that I want to build. Like in Ohio, 4-bedroom house. In Ohio, 4-bedroom house, 2-bathroom, 2-car garage. Okay, may not be driving a Benz or a Lexus, but hey, a Ford Focus will do just fine. Okay, so I'll even take a Ford Escape hybrid.
So let's stay there, right? I want to get to Trill in a second, but I want you to stay there. You are a matchmaker for traditional high value men. How do you define high value?
Oh, gosh, you're really okay. So high value, according to what I consider to be high value. And what I consider to be high value is a man who is making significant means. And I put that at 100K because 100K, you can live anywhere in the United States and not really have too much to worry. Okay, your budget may be tight in New York. Your budget may be tight in California. Okay, it's going to be tight in California. It's going to be tight in New York. Yeah. But that's about it. Anywhere else, majority of the country, it's not going to be tight. You can live anywhere and raise a family.
So that's the big part of what makes a high value man.
That's the big part. But then a high value man also has a network of other high value men. He has social status and standing within his community. He is respected by his peers. He is considered a leader of men and a leader in his community. Okay,
so stop right there. So why do you choose to work with specifically high value men to match with other women for traditional relationships?
For one, because what it costs to hire a matchmaker, I mean, it's expensive. It's very expensive. So I want to make sure that people understand, and I want women to understand the type of men that I'm dealing with, and I want men to understand what type of clientele that I'm accepting because of the prices that I charge, the amount that I charge. Matchmaking is not cheap. You put in a lot of work and a lot of effort.
I get it. I agree with you.
But high value men, it's not really the high value part. I just think that I've always used that word before everyone else got a hold of it to let women know that I have elite clients, elite caliber men as clients. And then I work with traditional men because they're just easier to work with. They're easier to match. I've tried matching modern men. They tend to get a little bit more too picky. The process just takes too long. So I like working with traditional men and women.
Okay. So I'm going to ask Trill first, do you have a definition for what a high value man is?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not necessarily tied around money too much. I think, again, depending on where you live, just like she said, Ohio, you can get a crib for $80,000. You may not need to make $100,000 there. So I think it's more tied to intangibles. It's like integrity, just like she said, leader of men, man that's able to, go his own way. He's respected. You know, he's admired. He has his choice of women. He has charisma, great conversation, different things like that. Calm demeanor, level-headed, able to steer the ship. You know, not get too high, not get too low. And then, you know, man is making, you know, I don't know. I guess if the average, like double whatever the average is where your neighborhood is, I think would suffice. In terms of money. So if the national average is, you know, I can't remember what it is in Texas, it's like 40 something. So you be making like 80 to, you know, 80 and up or whatever in that way. But I think it's more tied to intangibles than money.
Okay. So you're matching these high value men with these women that want to be matched, because I think the average woman wants a high value. I hate the term, just so you know, I despise the term.
Why does everyone hate terms? Because everybody says, "Oh, I don't like using that word," or, you know,
I don't like it.
Like nobody likes it. Everybody used that word last year. Now no one likes to use it.
I didn't use it. I referred to it because other people said it. I hate that word. Here's why I hate the word, right? Because everyone likes to place their value on dollars. That's the only way you can really put a tangible, quantifiable thing on your value is dollars. And to Trill's point, there's other intangibles that give you value. So when we talk about high value, people think of high dollar. So there's a lot of women right now that's chasing high dollar, right? Especially since they want to maintain their lifestyle. There's not a lot of women that I've come across or that I've ever heard of that says they're going to give up their business and their livelihood for a man that makes less. I commend you for sticking to that if that's important to you. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying in today's environment, when people hear high value, they're chasing high dollar men who are getting a lot of offers from these women that are looking for this high, so on and so forth. Because these women are also saying the cost of living is high. I want to maintain my lifestyle. I want to, so on and so forth, right? You've heard this multiple times. I'm not saying this for the first time. Right. So when I hear you say high value, or when I hear people say high value, I grasp that it's based on those dollar figures. So now they're thinking about, okay, when they want to get married and when they want to have children and when they want to settle down and being able to afford whatever lifestyle for themselves and for their family. That's completely understandable, but it kind of skews the idea that we can expect a large population of people to subscribe to this when we've already established that 90% of people aren't in that category that people are chasing, right? So that leaves a lot of people in the dust. So now if we're talking about marriage, given that now there's two income, people are going to school, people are getting education, starting businesses independently, men and women, do you feel like there's the value that people had in getting married back then is the same that you get today?
No, because back then people married for duty. Okay. Now people marry for love. Like, I gotta love you, I gotta like you. Back then it was duty. Like, the guy would get a woman who is going to clean his house, cook his meals, and take care of his kids. He got the best option in his neighborhood, in his community, in proximity to him. And the woman looked at the man and said, okay, this is going to be a man who's going to, work and take care of he's going to contribute to the household financially. He's going to protect the family. And she got the best option that was in proximity to her. So it was basically about trade-offs. Now it's more of, I kind of feel like it's sort of transactional. What can you do for me? And I'm not necessarily focused on what you're going to get from me. I just want to focus on what I can get from you. And then most people are looking for that ideal person to fall in love with. But I also want to say that most people are modern. Most people have marriages like trills, and they're fine with that and they're happy with that. And I think that's wonderful. I think I'm not an advocate for people choosing traditionalism. I'm an advocate for those who choose traditionalism. There's a huge difference. So I'm an advocate for marriage in general. And whichever dynamic you decide to fall under I'm going to support that. So, but most people are modern. Most marriages are modern. It is a very, very, very small population of people who are truly, truly traditional. That's why you guys are shocked by my mindset and my values, because it's not every day that you would hear a woman say, yeah, I would give this all up and just live under my husband's income. Because that's very difficult for a lot of women to do, since we've been conditioned from little girls to, you got to have you got to have your own, you got to maintain your independence, don't depend on the man. He can leave you, and then what are you going to have, and what are you going to do? And you get with this man, he cheats on you and all this other stuff. I just look at it, yes, those things are possible. It could happen. I just don't focus on them, because my focus is, I want to serve my husband. And as Trill pointed out, I can't do both. I already know I cannot work and have a marriage. I can't.
So, Trill, what about you? Do you feel like marriage has the same value that it had before?
No, and it goes back to what I said earlier about livelihood being tied to somebody. I feel like when your livelihood is tied to somebody, then now we have, like, I'm trying to figure out what the word is for, but we have circumstances other than true compatibility, love, different things like that are keeping y'all together. So it's just like having kids with somebody. You're gonna stay through a lot of nonsense just to make it work for the kids. But livelihood the same way. I'm gonna stay through a lot of nonsense just so because if I leave here, I don't have any credentials, any way to pay my bills. So now I'm gonna have to jump to the next guy. And that's why I don't necessarily advise tradition for that very reason, unless you went the path that LeTisha did. See, I advise the option to be traditional, not for me to like raise my daughter to be traditional, because I have a daughter, and I'm gonna raise her to secure your own comfortable self-sufficiency first, and then if you meet a guy, and he's a traditional guy, whatever the case may be, he's doing well for himself, and you feel the need to subscribe to his program. Or get in line with his structure. He has a legitimate infrastructure set up. Then you can tuck your credentials and you can fall into that. That makes more sense to me, instead of raising my daughter up to say, nah, you're not going to college. I'm gonna teach you how to be a wife, and your goal is to find a man. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like, again, relationships end at way too high of a clip. And even though we don't want to necessarily think about those things, you kind of really don't have a choice. Relationships end at too high of a clip to roll the dice on your livelihood on a man, especially because it's easy to find men that have money, but it's not easy to find men that have money and great leadership and solid structure. And really, because I know like a lot of dudes that have money and they in the club every week, spending it on sections and different things like that, don't necessarily have too many investments, not necessarily concerned with setting up an infrastructure for a woman. I'm worried about, okay, all these women want me for my money, I'm about to run through all of them. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's more so the mindset than like, if a man has a solid structure, I intend to be married, let me set this up for my wife, set this up for my family, so that way when I run into that woman, she can come into my program. So again, going back to what I said, I'm not going to teach my daughter to be dependent on a man, when most of those men are like the dudes at the club that I described in this era.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Because you said something, you said, I'm not going to tell her not to go to college. Why do everyone believe that housewives don't go to college?
I don't know if it's everyone that believes that they don't. I guess that's what
I always hear that. I always get that. Like, a lot of men, when they find out a woman has gone to college, and it's like, oh, you can't be traditional, you can't be a housewife. And I'm like, no. So you can do both. It's just that usually that's the best place for women who aspire to be housewives. That's actually the best place to meet your husband, because then you already know he's setting himself up to be a provider and a producer. So
it's crazy. It's crazy you said that, because I mentioned this on a previous episode. When I was in Japan, I was having this conversation with this woman who, lived in this very traditional community, right? And she said that a lot of women get really good grades, make it to really good schools, and get really good jobs so they can find a husband at these executive like positions, marry them, and then stay home. She said that. And I was just like, wow.
Yeah, people marry in proximity.
Yeah.
You're typically going to marry the person that's closest to you. So if you go to college, you get a really good degree, and it puts you in position to be near the type of man you want to marry. So if you want to marry an executive, a CEO, high-powered man, they're not falling out the sky. They're not growing on trees unless you get on the matchmaker's database. You're going to have to really put yourself in proximity to them. And for the most part, the best way to meet your husband in that regard is at the office
or Bumble. Listen, so here's the deal. So here's the deal, right? Like, I think part of the reason why someone might, I don't say that, stay-at-home wives should not go to college, but I think the reason why someone would say that is if we're subscribing to the idea that when you meet your man, you're not going to be working. There's a lot of like, I don't know, cost, time, energy that goes into going to school that's not going to be used for what most people use their education for, is their livelihood, right?
She doesn't care. So she's wrapped her mind around the fact that this is just an investment into me meeting my husband.
I got you, but I'm trying to figure out what that looks like. If I'm in calculus class, I'm thinking about how am I going to make use of this knowledge, right? That's me, right? I don't know what it's like for someone to be in physics saying, I can't wait to meet my man. Okay, square root of this. I can't wait to meet my man. Carry the 2, carry the 5. Okay, I got to submit this paper. Can't wait to meet my man.
Let me tell you how
I don't know what that looks like.
That looks like I'm looking at who's in the classroom, who's going to be the next Bill Gates, who's going to be the next Elon Musk, and I need to get him as a study partner. I don't care about any of this stuff. I just want to connect with the guy who may be the next Elon Musk, the next Bill Gates, the next Mark Zuckerberg, so that I can date him, enter into a romantic relationship, and we get married and have some babies.
How do you succeed at that? Am I tripping?
It's not about the education. She's only there to meet her husband.
No, she's speaking to how other cultures do. Like a lot of white women are trained that way to do that. But I think it's so foreign to us because like a lot of black women are not trained to do that. When black people think of tradition, we think about Big Mama. We think about the auntie. We think about, a lot of these women didn't go to get that extra education. They may have been smart naturally, but they didn't have degrees. They stayed and had 9 and 10 and 12 kids and raised their families, and their husband, may have worked in a steel mill or something like that. So when a lot of us think of tradition, that's what we think of. But in other cultures, which I've come to find out in college and a lot of things like that, especially white women, especially, they are trained to go find their man in college. So what she's saying is right. It's just not common in our culture.
I was in college. I was in college. By the time I met my ex-husband, I was my freshman year in college. And I was practicing pre-law. I was going to be a lawyer, not necessarily wanted to be a lawyer, but society has groomed us to where you can't just be a wife. You have to be something else. You have to make something of yourself. Although I knew since I was 5 years old, I wanted to be a wife and a mother and nothing else. But went to college. I met my husband while we were working at Arby's. We both were in college. By the time we got married, and when I got pregnant, I dropped out, and I was happy to do so. I did not care. I did not mind. I really was not focused on getting education. I was focused on possibly meeting my husband. Like, this was going to be an avenue to which I met the man that I could build a solid marriage with.
Here's a question. Where did that mindset get instilled from? In terms of you said at 5 years old, I knew I wanted to be a wife and a housewife. Where did that mindset come from?
My grandmother, watching my grandmother and my grandfather. My parents were separated by then. So my mom was taking care of us by herself, essentially. He had remarried someone else at that time. But watching my grandmother and how she served not just her husband, but she served the entire family. My grandmother had 10 kids, and just watching and seeing how much her children loved her and doted on her. Her husband loved her. She just seemed so much more appreciated and loved versus the women who were working. Like even my aunt, who was a stay-at-home wife, she was loved by her children and doted on by her children. She was always there. She was always able to meet their needs. Whereas my mom working and watching my other aunts who worked, we were latchkey kids because our mothers worked. So I definitely didn't want that for my kids.
See, I think it's interesting that you saw that and went that way, because I feel like most women would see that and develop a fear-based mindset. Right? You said, oh, my parents separated. So seeing that and seeing how that marriage situation happened, most people will look at that and say, okay, now I'm going to go out here and I'm going to establish myself, because I don't want to end up, in a relationship that fails and then I'm just out, just out here. So it was interesting that you saw failed relationships right there in front of your face and still decided to invest your livelihood into a relationship that young. That's just very interesting. It's not common at all.
Yeah.
Because I think like most people operate out of a fear-based mind. As a matter of fact, like most parents, most sets of parents, men and women. But in the Black community, it's a lot of single women. So single women especially teaching their daughters, hey, go out there and make sure that you're good. You don't need a man for anything. But fathers too. Fathers are saying, no, you don't need to depend on no man for nothing. I want you to go out there, get your degree, you know what I'm saying? So women are almost in this era are raised to not trust men and to be selfish. Like it's just part of the game. They get it from both sides. And again, most people operate out of a fear-based mindset. So for you to see that and go the opposite way, I think it's interesting.
So let's stay on that real quick. So you're saying that a lot of women are raising their daughters, or a lot of men are raising their daughters to fear being in these relationships where they're dependent on men and so on and so forth. And it's creating this chasm where people are going on this fear-based mindset. What do you think happens when a man meets a woman today and they're dating? What do you think they're looking for now that does not reflect, or maybe does reflect, the traditional things that Letitia's talking about?
Can I also say real quick that my mother didn't raise me to want to be independent of a man and get it on my own. My mother, because she was having to do it because her and my father were no longer together, she wanted to make sure, she instilled in me that you make sure that you find, and you don't have to do it on your own. You shouldn't have to do it on your own. You're a woman, especially if you're going to have kids. You need to make sure that you find a man who is going to be competent and capable of taking care of the family. So that's something she always instilled. She's like, you're going to be with a man anyway. You're going to just make sure that he can be able to take care of his family. So I was never raised with a sense of fear of relationships and attaching myself or being dependent on a man.
Well, I'm glad you created that clarification. So then I'll turn the question over to you. Given that what Trill is saying is also true, despite the fact that it might not reflect what you experienced as a child, a lot of women today are being pressured to have their own, hold their own, because they might not be able to depend on a man. And also they have certain things that they expect from relationships that may or may not reflect traditionalism, right? What do you think is currently at the top of women's minds when they're meeting a man today that they're dating? And what do you think should be on their mind?
At the top of their mind is fear.
Okay.
They're fearful of, is this man going to cheat on me? Is he going to use me? Is he going to abuse me? Is he going to leave me destitute? Mm-hmm. It's fear. I would say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What do you think should be going on in their minds?
They should be trying to find the best suitable match. I think it's not even just fear of the man, but they don't trust their judgment because they were not given the tools and resources and given a chance to test their own judgment. You know, sometimes, especially Black parents, we want to coddle, protect, and hold our kids' hands through every single trial, tribulation. We want to fix everything to make sure that they don't experience any trials and tribulations in life. Unfortunately, I was not raised like that. I've had to, I had to face life. And I've found that life is what it is. You're going to go through some ups and downs. And even in romantic relationships, you've got to kiss some frogs. You're going to have to kiss some frogs. That's just the way life is. Life doesn't owe us any understanding. The world doesn't owe us any understanding. I think women need to focus on learning to trust themselves, trust their judgment, and find the most suitable, compatible candidate for them.
Trill, how you feel about that?
I would agree 1,000%. And we said that on the pod a couple of times. I think people raise their child out of fear more so than giving them the skills they need to survive out here. I think like women generally, especially, even with dads in the home, you kind of try to protect them. Like most women, like, you speak to a lot of women. How many women are comfortable talking about sex with their dad? How many women are comfortable talking about, just dating, period? Like, unless she's bringing like a stand-up guy to the house and it's like, okay, daddy, here he is. But rarely ever does dads really sit down and like give their daughter the uncut raw game, because it's an uncomfortable conversation that you have to have on both sides. So I think that more so needs to change, like spend less energy trying to protect them from what's outside and put a lot of that energy into giving them the tools that they'll need to survive outside. And that's why I said, in having a daughter, that's how it's going to be. It's not going to be a situation where, oh, she bring up sex. Oh, no, you ain't having no kids till you 65. I don't want to hear about no sex. Like a lot of women were raised that way. So what happens is that they have to go out here and learn outside. You got to make mistakes outside. And that may be a illegitimate child here. That may be a dude that's putting his hands on you there. That may be, whatever. But if you would have sat her down and had those real conversations, she could have been able to distinguish, okay, this type of guy, this is bad news. That's bad news. He a solid guy, you know what I'm saying? And she would have gravitated more to the solid guys. But instead, a lot of women have to find out the hard way. So I agree. I think it should be the teaching should be less fear-based and more so in enhancing their selection skills.
So give me an example of something specific that you would be more ready to tell your daughter, and at what age you think it's reasonable to teach her, that other men and women are not telling their daughters. Give me something specific.
Again, like I think the main thing I teach my daughter is to find a man that has solid structure and that's consistent. You don't think men are teaching their daughters this? Kind of, sort of, but it's like broad. I don't feel like men are necessarily teaching their daughters what to look for and how they can like benefit a man like that. I think it's more so, okay, yeah, you want to get you a guy that doesn't cheat on you, doesn't disrespect you, doesn't put his hands on you. Again, that's broad. And I feel like those are like general,
and that's fear
things that everybody should have. You know what I'm saying? But no, not necessarily saying, hey, you want to get you a guy that's like, and if he's in college, make sure he has a stat degree. If he's in college, pay attention to how his lifestyle, how he lives, how he treats other women, how
he treats his money.
Another thing, his planning skills. That's why I say like structure, like your man's structure should look like this.
Yeah.
I don't feel like a lot of dads are getting detailed in that aspect, because just the idea of their daughter dating is so uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's more so what it is. And that has to go. You got to like really give your daughter the raw game. Like if he's doing this, he's trying to get that. This is what his intentions are. He said what? Okay, no, that really means this specifically. And I feel like if you give them those tools, then they're gonna make better decisions.
Letitia, how you feel about that?
I agree. I completely agree. I have an adult daughter, and for me, her instruction started with homemaking skills and instilling in her that she's going to one day be a wife, and this is how you're going to take care of your husband and serve your husband. And then another thing was teaching her about sex and teaching her that sex is not something to be afraid of. It's not taboo. It is beautiful. It's wonderful. And I would tell her, like, God, sex is the best thing, one of the best things God created besides your father. However, you do not have sex with just anyone, and you value yourself enough to understand that when you do have sex, you want to have sex with the man, one, who is your husband, and two, you want to make sure that you are, you're in love, and that you really want to give this most precious and sacred part of you. You want to give it to someone who has proven and shown that they are deserving and that they're worthy of it. So we had very open conversations about sex. When I realized that she was just curious. She just had a question based on what was being said in the neighborhood, right? And I, at first I kind of was like, I don't want her thinking that I'm going to be okay with her just having sex. But no, it was more about, as long as I made her feel comfortable with the idea of sex, that she wasn't going to be out here just spreading her legs because some boy told her something, and now she's curious to see if it's true or not. So,
you know what's interesting about what you guys both said about like being open and honest with your daughters. There's like this running joke in the I don't want to say the Haitian community, but like basically any immigrant family, right? They'll have a daughter, and the daughter will be like 16 years old, and they'll say, no boyfriend, focus on school. Daughter's 18, no boyfriend, go to college, no boyfriend. Daughter's like 21, graduate from college, no boyfriend, get good job, no boyfriend. Daughter's like 25, why you not married yet? That happens. I know a lot of very traditional immigrant daughters who they have traditional values, but they also have this very protective mindset. That kind of,
you know why that is?
Why?
I'm not an immigrant immigrant, but I kind of had that mindset when my daughter first went off to college. I was just so afraid of her experiencing heartbreak.
Yeah.
That she would get distracted from her studies,
or
that she would I didn't want to see her, because I know what it feels to be heartbroken. I know what it feels to get your heart broken by a boy.
I thought her studies was about finding a man. That's what you said.
But still, it's about getting her degree as well, because she, I raised my daughter to try to be traditional, but she kind of was trying to find her own lane.
Okay.
And I was letting her do that. So she's like, I don't know if this traditional thing is for me. I do want to be married, but I don't know it's for me. So, okay, you're going to college, get your education. And I wanted her to meet someone, but I was like, I don't want her to experience heartbreak. So let's focus on getting through your first semester, get your feet wet with because if this is what you want to do, you want to go to college, you want to have a degree, get your feet wet, don't focus on boys. But then I had to have a pep talk with myself, because I've always had to have a pep talk with me about my parenting when it came to her, because I immediately want to go into protecting her. But then I have to say, no, she has to experience life. So when it came to the point where she said, I met a boy, and I'm like, okay, all right. How are you going to deal with the situation? And, I just kept an open door that she can come and talk to me about whatever it was that she was experiencing.
So, and I think that's phenomenal that you're able to have that kind of conversation with your daughter and recognize the pros and cons to protecting and exposing her in a balanced way. And I think that's a real thing. I don't have any kids, so I can only imagine the kind of pressure that creates for you as a mom, and Trill also as a father, because I'm telling you, if I get a daughter, I'm getting a shotgun. It's the most cliche thing you could say, but I know, friends of mine who are in the South, they got kids that are like, I'm getting a gun, and they got them because they're just super.
You don't have to do that. You just need to teach them how to properly vet. And that's what I worked with my daughter. Like, you want a guy because you're in college, so money's not going to be a factor, right? You want him to focus on his character, his values, his personality. Like, are you compatible in temperament? Like, how do you handle disagreements? So you want to focus on those things. And I trusted her to make good decisions. She would come to me and ask me questions, and she trusted me to give her a solid answer. So I mean, she's been with the same guy for almost 2 years. They're about to get engaged. So
let me ask you this, right? In this segment of the show, I want to know, because you coach people, right? Give me an example of a client that you had that had the most transformative experience going into traditional mindset?
So with my coaching clients, I don't necessarily get them to go down one path or another.
Sure.
I just help them recognize what path is more suitable for them, because when it comes to traditional and modern, it's really built on your values, your mindset, which is based on your values. So I get them to recognize that this is if you have a heart to serve your husband and your family, and you want to stay at home and you don't want to have a career per se, or if you do have a career, you want to leave that job or career, you're more suitable for a traditional man. If you want to have a career, you don't want to, you're fine with basically helping to contribute. And there's a lot of women who say, look, I don't feel comfortable truly depending on the man. I want to be able to contribute to the household. You're going to be more suitable for a modern man, because a traditional man is going to be uncomfortable with you contributing financially. A man who's truly traditional is going to be uncomfortable with that.
So you haven't had a woman who was like, I don't know, in her masculine, and then you coached her into her femininity. And
yes. Now that I have to do a lot of.
So give me an example, without giving any names or any personal information from the person. Give me an example of something one of your clients or one of your people that is in your circle that experience some type of transition that experience some type of mindset that you don't subscribe to, and then you coach them into that mindset, and then now their life transformed.
That would be modern. That would be a modern woman.
Okay, so give me an example of a person.
There was a woman who she was trying to be traditional. She wanted to be traditional because that's what she was raised as, and she thought that's what she needed to be. But she just didn't feel comfortable. Like the traditional men that she was meeting, she just didn't like their very direct approach of, you need to stay at home and you need to just focus on taking care of the kids. And I want 5, 3 square meals a day, 7 days a week. And although she was raised in that, she was struggling. She's like, I have this career. I love it. I love my job. What am I going to do? And I told her, I said, look, and she's like, I know because you're traditional and you work with traditional men, you can teach me how to be traditional. And I was like, but that's not who you really are. That's not where your lane is. That's not where you comfortably fit. And she said, well, how do I, switch from that? I said, basically, I just told her, just be you. Right? You want to work, you want to, I said, what about kids? She said, kids would be in daycare, basically. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, modern dynamics are basically what you make it. You negotiate the best deal for yourself. Like you meet a man who wants the same, who's going to be on the same page as you, and you want to contribute to the household. And she was shocked. She was like, wait. You mean to tell me I don't have to be traditional? I don't have to be a stay-at-home mom? I said, no, you don't have to. This is not the 40s and the 50s. You do not have to stay at home. Just because your mom did it, your grandma did it, you don't have to do it. You're going to be miserable like so many previous women. And that's why when they got the chance, they left. They got the heck up out of here, and that's why they raised their daughters to not be in such dynamics. I was like, told her there's nothing wrong with her. So she ended up taking what I said, and I gave her some hints, some tips on where to meet corporate men who would more so likely be more modern minded. And she met that guy. Now it was a different lane, and she met him, and she's happy. Okay. They're in a relationship. She's finally got in a solid relationship. She's been struggling for, I think it was like 2-3 years now, because the modern men wanted, they want you to contribute financially. They love the fact that she had an education. She had a high power. She was an engineer. She's an engineer. She makes like $250. Okay. She makes like $250K.
Sure, your neck broke. You need to crack it.
I thought I was living well.
She
Jesus Christ.
makes $250K. She loved her job, very passionate about it, but for some reason she kept meeting traditional men. I said, well, that's because the aura, your energy, you're attracting them. Oh, plus she was online, and I was like, well, that's all you were filtering for, was traditional men. So now you remove that filter and you just look and see if he wants you to stay at home. And if he wants you to stay at home, then you move past him. I said there's more modern men than there are traditional men anyway. So your pool is much larger. So when she got comfortable with the fact that now he makes less than her, she's okay with it.
Shocking.
He don't make that much less. I mean, he makes 180, but he makes less than her, but she's okay with that. So they're fine. They're happy now. She's happy. She finally got in a relationship.
Good for them. And Trill, do you have an example of someone who had setbacks because of traditional relationships?
Setbacks, because to be honest, I don't really know a lot of people that's in traditional relationships. Again, the people that are in it, they are fulfilled. Because just like she said, it's a mindset thing. But, the problem comes when you want selective traditionalism. I think that's what I run into more so than anything, right? And to be honest, I think men wouldn't really mind traditional relationships if they went according to tradition. But that's not how a lot of women bring it to the table. Like, a lot of women want you to pay for everything.
Oh.
But if you ask her, hey, can I get my shirts ironed? She look at you like, is your hands broke or something like that? Cook for you? No, I'm not doing that. What are you talking about? No. But I want you to pay all the bills. So again, that's what I mean by selective traditionalism. So men definitely have a problem with that. But I think, even those traditional relationships back in the day were 50-50 to an extent. If I'm bringing everything home financially and you're taking care of everything else, that is 50-50. It's just not in the monetary lane. So,
what's crazy? No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say just to sum it up. I think the main problem that I've run into is that people that think they want tradition, especially women, think they want tradition until it's time to give up that control, and then that's when the issues come.
It's funny that what you said. I had the exact same experience about a year ago. Okay, I met somebody online, but they lived in a completely different state, right? So I was just like, whatever, right? It's the pandemic. All you're doing is talking to people online anyway, so who cares? Met this person. We exchanged, had dialogue, things like that. But when it came time to meet, I knew she lived in a different state. So I was just like, all right, I'll fly you over to me, right? It wasn't on some casual thing. It was just like we were like talking, right? But I'll put you up in a hotel. You know what I'm saying? I'll put you up in a hotel. I'll book your flight, whatever, and then I'll plan this weekend where we hang out. There's no particular obligations. It's just I chose to date somebody that lived in a different state. That's just what it was, right? And I had a day planned. We're gonna go to like some show or some rooftop thing. We just had the whole thing going on, right? Restaurant, blah 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 blah. Because we had been talking for like a while, so it wasn't like I didn't really know who I was, whatever, right? So then, but we were getting changed in the hotel because it was more convenient, right? We're getting changed in the hotel that I booked for her, and I realized we were running late, right? So I said, "Hey, do you mind ironing this shirt while I go take a shower?" Right? And she goes, "That's wifely duties." I'm like, what the hell? Right? So I'm thinking, I'm like, did I miss something? Like, what am I doing? Husband duties? Or like, where do you draw the line? You see what I'm saying? So to your point, yes, in this environment, a lot of people expect traditionalism when it benefits them. But when it comes to the responsibilities that come with traditionalism, people step away from it because they don't want to bear that type of burden.
Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny when you said that. My eyeballs just went. So this is a segment also where, in the spirit of helping people, I have two questions that came from previous guests or listeners of the show. You got a minute to answer?
Yes, I do.
All right. Here's the first one.
Is marriage a lost art?
How do you feel about that question?
Like marriage itself is not really a lost art. I think the effort and the servitude is a lost art. I think marriage, according to the definition of how it used to be, is drastically different from today. Like I said earlier, I think it's more of like a let me check my box type of thing. I think a lot of women are, you know, they desire weddings, but not necessarily marriage. And even men, if we're gonna be honest, a lot of men, you know, say, you know, yes, or propose to the woman, but he doesn't necessarily want to be married, or he's not necessarily ready to be married. So now you have two people committing to something that neither of them have a real grasp or understanding of, and now it's like, okay, let's kind of figure this thing out together. And that's why so many of them crash and burn compared to, you know, back in the day. Again, it was a servitude thing, just like she said. Like I take pride in, you know, serving my man, and you know, men in that generation took pride in having families and my legacy and things of that nature. But you know, I think with a lot of people today is just literally a box to check off because society says this is the thing to do, not necessarily because I want to. And with that comes the lack of effort. So
And also, speaking to the point, a lot of women get to the point where they want to have kids, but they don't want to take on the responsibility and the accountability of those children by themselves. So if I get married, then I'm sharing in that burden. Marriage will, in a way, guarantee me that he's going to be there. At least the expectation is that he's going to be there to take care of these children versus watching my mama, auntie, and cousins and them have children out of wedlock and that man is gone. So I don't want that stigma. I don't want that responsibility, but I'm ready to have my children. And so I'm going to go ahead and get married so that I can have my kids.
And I also think like a lot of times people aren't necessarily explaining what marriage really is. A lot of people paint marriage in this light as if it's like a Disney movie. You know, you find somebody you're compatible with, and you know, y'all agree, you know, the sex is good, you know, y'all like each other, y'all like going on dates, and then boom, y'all good to go. Now you found somebody compatible, but they don't let them know about the changes that come with marriage, whether it's mentally and physically and, you know, just desires. Things that worked on day one may not work 10 years, 15 years down the line. They don't let them know, hey, marriage is work. Everyday work. Like it's literally a decision. Y'all wake up and choose each other every day. Like it's real work involved. And, you know, that's why I say people go into it blind based on, you know, invalid ideologies and movies that they watched. And then it crashes and burns. And it's like, oh man, I didn't, you know, but again, they never had a chance to begin with because nobody kept it real with them in terms of what to look forward to and how much work it was going to be.
You know, it's crazy. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say the same thing, but along the lens of like, there's so many different types of access to information that's helpful, but can also hurt us when it comes to like the concept of marriage. So for instance, on social media, in movies, or just in access to so many different people who have so many different lifestyles makes you have this Build-A-Bear ideology. Oh, I want this type of, you know, man, this type of woman who's also going to do this, who's also going to do that. Oh, I did also witness this person who did this. You know, relationship goals for me are boom, 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 boom. And then they have all these unrealistic expectations based on how much information we have that may not be valid to what actually works for us. So when I hear someone ask the question, is marriage a lost art? I think the idea that you can find somebody and build a successful relationship that you work for is a lost art. I think it's more so people have aspirations for what they think marriage is going to guarantee them rather than what they're signing up to be responsible for.
And also, no one wants to do the work to get to that point. People think I meet someone and automatically, especially women, I meet someone and automatically we're going to get married. But what are you doing during a dating phase? What are you doing during that? I mean, that's the process where you're going to have to do the most work, unfortunately. Like you're going to have to collect the most data. You're going to have to go through more people than you care to do so in order to find just that one person who is right for you. But most people, when they do meet that person, they're automatically trying to jump to the I do's and not necessarily try to focus on getting to know that person for them, but you're trying to basically, you have this ideal of this person. And so now this person, you're going off of the ideal of this person. And so you want, now I want to go to the altar. I want to say, I want to be the missus, and not realizing that you actually have to get to know this person to see if they're suitable for you. So people need to slow down a little bit, slow down, be intentional, but slow down.
And focus less on trying to emulate relationships that you see. That's why I hate seeing relationship goals. I truly hate that, because you're not there day for day. And even if it's your parents or your aunties or your uncles or whatever sister that you see married, you're like, oh, they got a great marriage. People run the dangerous game of trying to emulate that. So you end up, year and a half into a marriage that's not even based on what y'all two value. That's why the advice I give people in marriage is stop looking around you. Stop looking for stuff to emulate. Like, create your own blueprint. What works for you guys? Like that. What values do y'all have? They values maybe doing one thing, and you trying to emulate that with your man. He hate it for real, but he don't want to disappoint you. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna go with it, or vice versa. You trying to act away, and your girl, because she loves you, she's just kind of going along with it, but she's like, I don't really want to run my marriage that way. So, again, I think is what she's saying is 1,000% right. Take that time to vet that person and realize and understand what it is that they value, and be 100% transparent about what you value. And then y'all build it yourselves. Stop emulating other people's relationships. You
know what's crazy is I once dated this woman where relationship goals was like her thing, right? Trill, you good? Your neck keep falling off your body, man. So here's what happened, right? So she had friends who were dating professional athletes. Okay. So I'd be chilling with her, right? She was happy with me, but at the same time, she was wrapped up in like this social media lifestyle. So like she would send me snippets of videos of her girlfriends who are dating, one was dating somebody from the Celtics, Boston Celtics. So there's videos of, he bought her a Range Rover. She's like, baby, look. And I'm just like, why are you showing this to me? Right. So, and that was not that I was like, not that there was any like intimidation or anything like that. It was just one of those things like, why do you care so much what they're doing in their relationship? You're like, seriously, you know what I mean? So that was one of the things that I experienced personally, to your point. So anyway, we have one more question. This one should be a quick one.
What do you think has a greater impact on your life? Your mindset or your habits, and why?
Oh, that can go one or two ways, right? Because like your habits, what has a greater impact on your life? I mean, but it's a good impact or a negative impact. I would say when it comes to a good impact, it definitely will be your mindset, because your mindset should be based in your values, your ideals, your beliefs, your behaviors. What was the second part? What was it?
So mindset or habits, which has a greater impact, whether positive or negative, which has the greatest impact?
I'm just gonna say, for me personally, my mindset has the greatest impact for my life.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like that's synonymous, because my habits are created from my mindset. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard for me to differentiate in that regard. I think if you have a solid mindset in terms of like what you value and being disciplined and things of that nature, then your habits are gonna follow that. But if your mindset is, okay, I'm just gonna go for what feels good or what's convenient for me at the moment, then your habits are gonna follow that. So again, I think they're actually synonymous. So that question is hard to answer.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say your habits stem from your mindset. I think it starts with your mindset. So if you have a good mindset, your habits will follow.
Yeah, I think your habits are the direct reflection of your mindset, literally.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. I would have to agree with that. That's why I'm like, wait, what?
You're like,
I didn't answer that question. Oh my goodness.
I made that face. I was like,
You made that face quite a few
Listen, I'm
times.
trying to give content here. I'm gonna try to answer this. I'm gonna give an answer, but
Right.
okay.
That's the only questions that we have for this show. So for the sake of the next guest, Letitia, do you have any questions that you want the next guest to answer?
Yes. So is this going to be a relationship show or what?
Well, you can pick anything, whether it's relationship, whether it's a social thing, or some type of thing that you've been pondering, or questions that you get from your audience quite frequently that you want one of my next guests to answer. Trill, you got a question?
I say, what's your top 3 qualities that you bring to the relationship that aren't tangible?
Okay. Trill, you got one more while she's thinking?
Yeah. What if you had to give a title to this chapter specifically in your life where you are right now, what would it be?
Okay. I feel like you Letitia seems like she got something.
I got it.
What is it?
Do women understand what it takes to attract the type of man that they desire?
I think she tops you, dogs.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I'm gonna see which guest I'm gonna align that with. That's a good one. Wow. Yeah, I might make an entire episode about that. I like that. So Letitia, give everyone an idea of how to find you. This was a great conversation, by the way. I appreciate both of you guys, and I think we're gonna get a lot of value with this. And I'm gonna edit this, and this thing is gonna probably blow my mind when I play it back. But give everybody an idea of not who you are, but how to find you. What kind of programs you have going on that people can take advantage of.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at 2 Hearts Exclusive, the number 2 Hearts Exclusive. Find me on Twitter at 2 Hearts Exclusive, Facebook at 2 Hearts Exclusive, 2 Hearts Exclusive MMS. But mostly, if you want good content where there's going to be dialogue formed around relationships, dating dynamics between men and women, you can find me on Clubhouse under Letitia Underwood. And you can always reach out to me at 2heartsexclusive@gmail.com. If you want to sign up for any services or just check me out, you can go to my website at www.2heartsexclusive.com.
Trill, talk to me.
The TrillAC on every platform. That's Twitter, Instagram. If you're looking for content, cruise season on every platform. It's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Make sure y'all subscribe to the page. Podcast drops every Tuesday. I think I'm leaving anything out now. That's pretty much it, man. I appreciate it. It's been a hell of a conversation.
Yeah, your neck dropped like 30 times on the show. You're like, give up her career, her business.
I was shocked, man.
It sounds like too much of an echo chamber for you.
That's gonna be a snippet. That's gonna be a soundbite. Okay, I'm just letting you know. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at j.damisse. That's on IG, or j_damisse on Twitter. You can find the podcast at Introspect Club. That's on IG, Twitter, Clubhouse. It's on YouTube. We're on Spotify, all streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it. If you have any questions that you want any of my guests to answer on the show, like we just did, please shoot me a DM or send me a video clip of you asking the question, or an audio soundbite would be helpful as well. If you are a unique individual that has a very unique life or interesting lifestyle that other people can learn from, reach out to me. I might be able to get you on the show. Trill, Letitia, I appreciate everything you contribute to this conversation. Until next time.
Appreciate you having us.
Thank you for having me.
Right on.